Thank you for joining Wars of the Rosies, and this is Experience Creates Knowledge by Frater W.C. Parker, F.R.C. An article taken from Rosicrucian Digest, Volume 14, Number 1, February 1936. Experience Creates Knowledge by Frater W.C. Parker, F.R.C. As we peer back through the ages to the beginning of the human race, we perceive prehistoric man contemplating with amazement the environment in which he has been placed for the acquisition of earthly experience. There he stood, or more probably crouched, a strange admixture of awe, hope, and terror, confronted by the problems of life, which must be faced whether or not he wished it. There was no alternative. His was to do or die. Under such circumstances, it is interesting to surmise what could have been the first thought that emanated from his embryonic consciousness. He was devoid of knowledge, and there was no schools or colleges to which he might turn for instruction as to proper procedure. True, he possessed a soul, a brain, and 5 senses, but they had yet to be coordinate. If we concede the axiom that self-preservation is the first law of nature, we may reasonably assume that his initial act was to seek shelter from the distressing atmospheric conditions and the devastating storms that swept the dismal terrain, or perhaps his fear of the ferocious beast that challenged him at every turn forced him to take refuge in a rocky crevice or natural cave where he might pause in comparative safety. This opportune having contained no downy bed to rest his weary limbs, and upon awakening he did not find a ready supply of hot and cold water, nor tub or shower for the matutinal bath, no fleecy towels or toilet articles, no refrigerator replete with tempting viands, no gas range or cooking utensils, no morning newspaper, no books to enlighten him, no clothes to drape his shivering figure, not even a Bible to render him comfort. By no stretch of the imagination could he visualize what are considered the ordinary requirements of modern life, and from sheer indigence, he was compelled to arise and depend upon his individual initiative for the mere perpetuation of his existence. Gradually, he learned to walk upon his feet, to touch and feel things with his hands, to smell the fragrance of the flowers, to taste the scanty food that came within his reach, and to hear whatever sounds were invoked as the forces of nature pursued their relentless course. The vague comprehension of these occurrences served to develop a mental reaction, and slowly his brain began to function and enable him to recognize and repeat the sensations which afforded him the maximum of gratification. From time to time, he divested crude implements to assist him in fishing, hunting, and other projects which came to his attention, including the acquirement of much-needed materials to cover his bruised and naked body. Quite naturally, his primitive instincts developed into a desire to improve his mode of living. Grim necessity became the mother of invention and converted him into an eternal question mark. And as a result of his patient search for ways and means to yield him greater pleasure, he eventually stumbled upon the great discovery: fire. He became interested in the guttural tones emitted from his throat and contrived to express his approval or disgust with an expressive grunt. Little by little, he associated certain sounds with specific objects or events, and thus established the foundation of a language, an alphabet, and the methods of oral communication now in vogue. In his spare moments, he amused himself by fashioning rough drawings of the animals he encountered, and his various adventures, supplementing these hieroglyphics with marks to represent the various vowel sounds, and in this manner evolved the written word and made possible the preservation of experience and knowledge that has been of such material assistance in the formation of our present-day civilization. Finally, this was climaxed by the invention of the printing press and the worldwide dissemination of learning, which has so enhanced our supply of information as to provide the indolent with an illusory shortcut to knowledge. Strange as it may seem to the unthinking novitiate, the wisdom of the ages was not born to us on the wings of chance. It was not dropped in our laps like so much manna from heaven, but was garnered through the painstaking efforts and actual experiences of our ancestry, who, by persistent experimentation, discovered and proved what we today accept as truths, exemplifying a perfect manifestation of the divine purpose to make man the master of his own destiny. It is obvious that this vast fund of knowledge was not particularly accumulated for the elucidation of debating societies, nor merely to furnish theses for erudite scientific discussion, but is a sacred heritage that we should accept with reverence and gratitude, with the anticipation that it will inspire us to further experimentation and new experiences, from which we may derive additional knowledge that we can pass on to future generations and thus sustain the significance of the eternal circle. It is always well to remember that we are the stewards to whom this diligently acquired wisdom has been entrusted, and for its use or abuse we shall be held to a strict accounting. Furthermore, our responsibility increases in proportion to the abundance accorded us, and the more we receive, the greater will be the returns expected from our stewardship. To idly and selfishly enjoy the manifold blessings with which we are endowed is contrary to the law of apportionment. If the ancients had been content to accept prevailing conditions, there never would have been any progress. We would still be living in caves and eating raw food. It is consequent of their work that we are provided the luxuries of today, and the cosmic code of equity exacts a justifiable recompense. We get out of life what we put into it. We must give freely if we expect to receive. Giving does not necessarily imply a monetary transaction. It is just as much to our credit to continue the labors of our predecessors and contribute increasing benefits to those that follow us. Work and experiment will bring experience, and experience will create the knowledge that will help us to reveal unto others the path to true happiness. It is our especial privilege to receive each week a masterful monograph, definitely indicating the way to real knowledge through enlightenment, experiment, and experience. A careful study of these lessons will undeniably prove of lasting benefit, but it needs more than the most comprehensive reading to fully convey to us the higher intelligence we are seeking. It requires the experiments to unfold the cryptic message to our inner consciousness. Knowledge is power, but positive knowledge can only be obtained through personal experience. If we make judicious use of knowledge, study the lessons understandingly, faithfully practice the experiments and apply them to our daily lives, and conscientiously perform our duty to our fellow man, we will assuredly pave the way to peace, love, harmony, and the attainment of divine illumination. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Rosies. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.